Alright guys, welcome back to some more MX versus ATV Supercross Encore. Today we have a ton of different stuff to show you. We have 4 new custom tracks in Supercross Encore. The first one here is the crazy one. This is ISC Trails by Gamma 20, and it's the toughest trails that I've ever played in any MX versus ATV game. That would be counting Reflex custom tracks and the trails in All Out. This is insane. The easy part about it is that you can put it in first gear and just use the clutch boost if you get into a really sketchy spot. And there is some really sketchy spots, and you will see us clutch boost a bit to get out of it. But for the most part, if you just play or ride the trails more realistically, it's tough. And there is some spots like here where we're at right now. I don't know if you can actually even get through that section without clutch boosting to jump yourself out of it. It's not the most realistic, but remember, the game isn't, it's arcadey, you know? And it was fun. This was insane. These trails are crazy. It actually gets more crazy. You will see some even tougher spots. Well, I don't know if tougher spots. This is probably the toughest part about the custom map was this area here. It was very, very tough, and it's kind of odd, or really not odd, but cool, because it's an area, a big map, with a bunch of different hills in it, and then these trails kind of run off but connect back to each other. And then here you can see it's turning back or turning into sand. I don't know if really a sand, kind of a sand area. And these trails weren't that difficult. I don't even really show you this area. If you follow this area along the top of the mountain here, it goes to the far back. You can see it in the distance there, and then it just kind of runs out in the open. There wasn't too much difficult about that, and there's a bunch of drag when you ride this custom map. He wanted to slow you down a bit and not have you fly through these trails at 100 miles an hour, you know what I mean? So there is a bunch of drag. So in the open, and there's kind of a, not really a track, but kind of a track in the bottom, and I don't really show you that either because you can't maintain any momentum. It's really, really slow. It has the same kind of drag that these trails had, so that part wasn't that fun to play. But these trails here, you just kind of saw us go through this rocky section. Super, super tough trails, enduro, hard enduro kind of, and it's tough. If you just flew through it and clutch boosted, yeah, it wouldn't be as fun or as difficult. But if you try to stay on the trail and get into these, you know, every little tiny area and maneuver around the rocks and not hit the trees and stuff, it's really tough. It's really tough, and it's really fun. And then, as I was saying, these trails all kind of connect back to each other. This part we're on after going through that rocky section was the first part of the trails that I showed you at the beginning of the video. And then this part's a bit longer, and I would say this is probably the easier part, minus the area on the outside I was talking about, the sandy trails where it's just flat and there's a bunch of drag. That was probably the easiest part. This part would be the second easiest, or the next difficult after that. And it was fun. It was fun. It gets tougher as we go along because we're ascending. We keep going up, and we're getting higher into the mountain area. So the trails get steeper, tougher as we go along in this this specific trail. But like I was saying, it's not really one big trail. They all kind of connect to each other, and they have a center point, but they're all kind of their own individual thing. So this was really cool. This was really unique, and I felt like it was done very, very good, especially considering the way I said you can just clutch boost. If you just bump the clutch to get out of a really, really, really steep, tricky section, then the trails become way more fun than you might think they are. So, awesome job. This is insane. I highly encourage you guys to try this out on PC. If you're on console, I'm sorry you can't play these, I don't believe, because they're Steam Workshop. Be cool if you could, but just PC. So definitely check it out. Like I said, we have 4 tracks to show you. We have a pit bike track later on in the video. We have a bamboo track. We have a super awesome, very, very well done backyard practice track. We'll show you when we get there, but overall, this was my favorite. I felt like this was the most unique. It was very tough because the way you have to play these trails is completely different than how you normally would play Supercross Encore. Encore is usually super fast pace, you know, fifth gear, around the corner, send it for a ginormous jump, whip glitch. This is completely different. You have to attack this thing different than you normally would play the game. So, really good job by Gamma 20. Check it out, guys, if you are on PC. Alright, here we have the Bamboo Forest track. I really don't have too much to say about this one. The track itself is pretty easy. I don't feel like it's a very tough track. If you preload, you're pretty much going to get over it. All the jumps are pretty flat and safe. It doesn't really have anything that's technical on it. He has some roughness here and there, but the jumps are pretty... The track itself is kind of boring. Now, I'm not saying it's a bad track, because I was actually... Originally, I was looking for bad tracks for this video, but then I ran across all these really good ones and decided to just do the video this way. So, it's not a bad track. Otherwise, I would have saved it for doing a video where we show bad tracks, but as far as the track goes, it just feels pretty simple. It's way better than anything I could make, but again, it's still pretty simple. You know what I mean? Now you've seen a lap. So the environment is what got me. I feel like he probably put a bunch of time into putting all the bamboo around the track, and it just gives you a cool feeling. How it kind of stretches over the track and you kind of jump right underneath of it. It's just a fun environment, a fun track, not a bad layout, not a bad design, just a very simple track. I feel like maybe he could have added some more roughness, carved some deep lines down the straights, maybe carved some really deep ruts there too, and just made it a bit more challenging. But overall, I would definitely try it out. It's definitely worth a download and trying it one time. It's a fun track. It may not be a track you play over and over again, but fun for at least one try. Alright guys, here we have another pit bike track. We did do a pit bike track last video. I feel like that one was probably better. The environment was just better. The track had more polish to it. I feel like it could have been scaled a bit better. It was really easy to overjump some stuff and send it. We actually quad over this step on, step off on the final lap. And then this section is kind of weird too, because you jump in and then jump out. It just feels odd. So the scaling, I feel like the way they built this track wasn't intended to use the clutch boost. But to counter that, the finish line table is so big, if you don't clutch boost, you can't get over this bad boy. We get over it just about right. Well, we overjump there, but that section, you have to clutch boost preload. But the rest of the track, it feels like it was made to not preload or for sure not clutch boost. It just feels like that, which is fine. But some of the berms and the jumps don't have, they didn't take the smoothing tool around the track. They did on some stuff, some of the berms and some of the jumps, but some of it, I feel like the side of the finish line table is really rough still. I feel like they could have smoothed that off a bit and polished it up. The berm after the step on, step off, I feel like could have used a bit more polish. But overall, it was a fun track. Here we sent it for some big lines on the final lap, and it was fun. I just don't feel like it was as good as the first track. It has more to it, but the layout and the polish isn't as high as it was on, I believe it was called Alexandro 3.0. So fun track, try it out, definitely worth playing. And here we have the final track of the day. This is MX Dantau by Green Linux. This track is very simple, but there's several things about this track that make it really good. The first is the environment, okay? The environment, the design they chose is very good. It feels kind of like a backyard practice track. And he did say it's not meant to be competitive. It's meant to be more of a tribute to his dad making this practice track for him 12 years ago, I believe. So I connected to this track very much so, because when I was growing up, my father did the same thing for me in building a backyard practice track, and we'd change it, and every couple months we would come in and tear it apart and rebuild it. It was fun, and that's how I grew up riding. I know it's not where I did most of my riding, but it was nice because you could just walk out the house and, you know, hop on the bike and go ride. You didn't have to load the bike up. You didn't have to wait on the drive to get to the track or whatever. It was just really, really easy. And I was fortunate enough to grow up kind of in the countryside and have that luxury of being able to do that. So this track, very cool, very simple, but it's a real life replica of something he had when he was growing up. So very cool. I have so much respect for that because, again, it's something that I can connect with and understand. And it's simple, but generally, you know, when you're growing up to ride and learning for the first time, and even if you're not learning, it's cool. It's really cool. So I decided to use the 125 because that's what I grew up riding most of my life as a kid. And I feel like this track was suited for 125 really well. Green Linux, awesome job. I highly encourage you guys to try this out. It's definitely fun. It's an experience that if you've ever had a practice track, I feel like you'll connect with this one a bit more than some of the other custom tracks. So you guys and girls are absolutely amazing. Thank you so much for the support on the channel lately. It really does mean a lot. And until the next video, take it easy.